part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane,
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action.
This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright.
You're listening to the Krypton Report.
Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the Man of Tomorrow, and with me, as always, Mr. James Cole, that Superman of Red, that Man of Steel, that guy. What's up, buddy?
That guy. It is me. It is me, James.
Oh, what a week it's been. It's been a good one. So to start off here, how was your free comic book day?
It was pretty good. We went out and we hit some coffee and donuts out in the morning. Stopped at the Don's Donuts down over here. Nice little local place. Got some pretty good donuts.
Those are always the best. Local donuts. Local
Yeah,
place.
right.
There's a bakery here. Next time you visit, I'll take you. You'll gain 30 pounds.
Oh, fantastic. Look forward to it. We stopped there. We went out and, hung out. We went in and waited in line, and the girls, because we just had the two-year-olds in the strollers, and they had a good time. They were looking at the people in cosplay, and Spider-Man talked to them, and they had a good time.
That's awesome. We went to Pack Rat Comics, which is my favorite comic book store here. It's like 40 minutes away. Sucks, but whatever. And my mother-in-law and sister-in-law went because there's also a really cool crystal shop that Jania likes that's right next to the comic book store, and her mom wanted to go there, so we kind of made it a whole family thing. But they also went and they got a bunch of free comics for me because I was making a collection of comics and kids comics and stuff to donate to work to put in our kids room for when kids come and stuff. So I went through my comics and found some like issues I have that are hit and miss or just older that aren't part of collections, or I have doubles of or whatever, stuff that I want to rebuy later and trade or something, that I can part with and I want to pass on to maybe it'll help some kid discover comics, and we know what these characters mean to us. So I got that pulled together, and I thank them for getting some of the other comics, because our shop has it's 3 free comics, but then if you donate canned food and stuff, because they do a canned food drive, you can get a couple of more. So between all of us, we were able to get the books we wanted and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, the shop up here, he does 5 per customer. But he also gives everybody a ice cream voucher for the place across the street.
Nice.
And I think they had a with it being the day, and I think that it's kind of growing a little bit. They pulled a food truck over in the area.
They did that.
People would be smart to hit those things up in those areas.
They had a food truck there. They had cosplayers. They had the local Ghostbusters there. The kids were excited. They got pictures with the Ghostbusters. Sayla loved it. And then they had a bouncy house. And it was one of those that's a bouncy house, but also has a slide. You slide out of, right? And I'm trying to paint the picture, but there's just a part that goes over the slide, like a inflatable, almost bridge. That not that you walk on, but just and I'm standing out there, kids are jumping, and they're going to Salma goes down the slide, Sayla goes down the slide, they go back in, right? Then all of a sudden I see Sayla run and launch herself out, flies through the air, hits that top part, and then comes down on the slide, giggling the whole time. I mean, it was just this ridiculous, oh my God, she's in midair. And she just comes out laughing. I'm just holy cow, Sayla.
Right.
I wish I had recorded it, but I didn't know. I was just, out there.
Yeah, it's one of those things you just hope you see.
Yeah. I'm just chilling, eating some popcorn. That they had fresh popcorn made and everything. And I was just like, and they were if you spent $10, you got a raffle ticket to enter to win a Force Effects lightsaber.
Ooh.
So, yeah, they had some cool stuff, and of course they had like local artists and any kind of talent they get, there. So that's always a great time for Free Comic Book Day. All right, moving on. If another a DC, I want to say adjacent because it's DC Vertigo, but the Dead Boy Detectives is on Netflix. If you haven't checked it out, if you're a fan of the Sandman, it is kind of like loosely tied to the Sandman that was on Netflix. Originally developed by Greg Berlanti to be a spinoff from Doom Patrol, from the episode of Doom Patrol that featured the Dead Boy Detectives. But then it left Max and became a Netflix property, so they recast and everything. Janine and I it's 8 episodes. We are on episode 4, and we're enjoying it. It's interesting. I like the feel and the way they're doing it. My only complaint is I don't feel like they set up the rules and boundaries of what it means to be a ghost in this universe. Because sometimes I'm watching things, I'm like, would that work like that if they were a ghost? And sometimes I feel like they're more just like invisible than they are ghostly because of how they interact. But that's just my nitpick, because I feel like anytime you deal with something, you need to really set the rules of the world. But it's been interesting. All right, moving on. So McFarlane's at it again with some fun figures. And this one I brought up because this is one that Levi sent me. He's like, "Did you see this? It's a 2-pack." All right. It's a 2-pack of Shazam Fury of the Gods, Shazam, and Freddy. A year later.
A year after the movie is released.
And
bombed.
And I'm just like, And then Levi and I were talking about it, and I was like, I wouldn't mind having the Freddy. Solomon would love the Freddy, but I don't need the Shazam. I already have Shazam. And I'm like, why did you wait a year? Because basically, look at the figure. The body is still the same Shazam body, just it's got a Freddy face mold and a repaint. I'm like, why didn't you just do the whole Shazam family?
Yeah, that's what we were saying when the movie came out, because all they released was like Shazam.
All they released was Shazam and then Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah, they did.
And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, you could have, Mary Marvel. If they would have done a 2-pack of Mary and Freddy right now, I would have bought that. Or Freddy and the Wizard, would have bought that. Because that would have been cool to have a wizard and have Freddy, or to have Mary. But like Eugene, Pedro, you could have done the same thing, same body style, with just a different head sculpt and color, and just basically package the figure. And Darla deserves one too, but her like body style, like and costume and color scheme is different. So, but yeah, I'm just kind of like a year later after the movie didn't do so well. Just like, I guess Hot Toys was going to make a young Barry hot toy from the Flash movie, and they canceled it.
I'm like, they were like, nobody's gonna buy this one.
Yeah, no one's gonna buy this. It didn't beeve at all.
No.
So we also got, as our last episode, James and I talked about Crisis Part 2. We did get our like 30-second teaser for Crisis Part 3, the big conclusion of the epic trilogy, in quotes. And the biggest takeaway from this is we saw Batman the Animated Series, original Batman the Animated Series, Batman and Joker, voiced by Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy, for like a split second. So they're in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest takeaway from it. They didn't have any dialogue. All you heard was Joker laughing, and that was it.
Yeah, but they've been confirmed that it will be them.
Yes, they were confirmed. Apparently, Kevin Conroy was doing more recordings for Batman up to before he died.
Yeah, because we thought the Kill the Justice League was going to be the last Kevin Conroy performance. The other thing in the trailer that's worth pointing out is Lex Luthor.
He is there.
Yeah, Lex Luthor reappears. And somehow maybe he made a deal with the Monitor. But we see some more characters in there. I'm just hoping that this part 3 is really what we want it to be, more so than just being another half the movie is a flashback, then moving forward on the rest of it.
Right. Half the movie fills in some of the gaps that we've had throughout the entire Tomorrowverse.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then it just says coming soon. So, I don't know, July maybe? Just a quick guess. I always feel like they release one in July.
July sounds like a month that they release a bunch in, which would be good. I mean, it still gives 5 months if Watchmen is 2 parts, because I don't think we've been
nothing.
told yet. Yeah, there's
I'm-
been nothing for it.
My speculation is, and this is just based on history, they released that in July. That gives them 2 months, because when did the first part come out this year?
Geez, I think January.
Yeah, and then so January, and then yeah.
January, April, July. I mean, that's 3 months apart for each.
Yeah, so I guess and then at Comic-Con they give the first trailer for Watchmen and
tell us it's a 2-parter or whatever.
Whatever it is. We don't even know what it is. It could be a sequel, prequel, sidequel. We have no idea. But so that's the big news there. And then the last big news, and if you want to watch it with us, go ahead and pull it up on YouTube. We'll wait. The full trailer for season 2 of My Adventures with Superman. The big exciting part of our news. So go ahead and get that queued up. James, you ready? We're gonna watch it together because it's only 1:20. And
sorry, pop-ups and volume. Let me fix this real quick.
You're good. Give James a moment here and let everyone know that we just recently dropped, if you're part of our $1 Patreon, where we do special shows and series and extra episodes, and we also discuss. We like to do our movie commentaries, and for Free Comic Book Day, we did Kick-Ass 2 with Jamie and Jania, and it's always fun because Jamie had not seen either of those films.
No.
To the recording. So
both of them had some shocking moments for her.
Yes. And you get to hear me laugh hysterically and tell you what my favorite quote of the whole movie is and talk about how I want to dress my daughter up because she would be an amazing hit girl. And yeah. But that's a good time.
Yeah. Season 2 trailer.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
We'll do our usual 1, 2, 3, play. 1, 2, 3, play. That's right. First of all, I love the narrator. Lois, Jenny, and the Man of Steel are back. So we're seeing Atomic Skull. A really good. Boom. We called it.
Yep. Lex Luthor. Yep.
Looks
like Parademon. Yeah.
Jimmy's doing his TED Talk. Parasite's back. But we we speculated in season 1 that was going to be Lex, and how Ivo was like a proto Lex. Look, Superman's saving Sam Lane.
Yep.
All right, season 2, 1 hour premiere, May 25th. A baby.
I'm Not Alone.
And Supergirl.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, let's just say this. First of all, looks like maybe we get some version of a John Henry. Real quick, there's a quick guy in a suit, maybe building his own kind of steel suit here. Like 58 seconds, 7 seconds, 58 seconds.
Yeah.
And then we see adult Kara and we see baby Kara. So, but we have the release date, and it's this month. This is what I love. It's this month. It's only 2 weeks away, give or take. Okay, what is today? Today, it's like 20 days.
Yeah.
All right.
I think you're pushing it a little bit.
2 weeks away. All right. 20 days away. But, I mean, it's just exciting. And I always get confused because it's like premieres at midnight, next day on Masks. I'm like, okay, just technically. So does that mean, what day does that come out? It's just confusing to me because it is not okay, it says May 25th, midnight to 1 a.m. next day on Max. So May 25th. So does that mean like 24th and then at midnight, boom, it's the 25th, right? Which would put it Saturday morning. So does that mean like when I wake up Saturday, it's on Max, or do I have to wait till Sunday for Max? See what I'm saying? It's confusing.
Right. Well, it's that freaking midnight Adult Swim time is all it is,
Exactly. So that means, the night of the 24th into the 25th, right? But yeah, they screwed the show by putting it on like that on Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, and everyone's just gonna watch on Max or buy it digitally and watch it. But
yeah, I bought the last season digitally. Probably what I'll end up doing this season. Buy it digitally so that way it's there Saturday no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. So it brings back Saturday morning cartoons. But
yep,
I like how they're just like, we're gonna go ahead and do Supergirl. I have one episode left where Solomon and I were rewatching season 1 because I wanted to rewatch it all before, this episode or this season started. But that is all the news that I have. It's time to kick off. Grab your books, grab your apps, whatever you want to.
Whatever you're reading on.
We're going to discuss Superman 78.
Look up in the sky.
We just want to say if you've enjoyed this podcast, please check out other podcasts on the Press Play Podcast Network.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough Super Talk, check out these other podcasts. Digging for Kryptonite, Supergirl Radio, The Last Sons of Krypton, the Superboy Legacy Podcast, All-Star Superfans, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Aspiring Kryptonians, Always Hold On to Smallville, The Geek of Steel, and Truth, Justice, and Hope.
Remember to check out Krypton Report on all social media platforms. Go to linktree.com/Krypton Report. Find out all of our
What's up, everybody? Chase Smith here from the Chase Smith Podcast and Cavs on the Break NBA Podcast.
And I'm JD, host of the Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we are super excited to bring you a brand new show starting next Tuesday, the Fanfare Podcast.
The Fanfare Podcast is all about your favorite movies and our favorite movies and the best moments in cinema. To help guide our discussion, each episode will feature one classic, and we will grade this movie using a report card-like scale A through F. We're going to be grading categories like acting, directing, cinematography, the score, and even the movie poster itself.
And when we're not featuring a movie report card, we'll be sharing our movie rankings, franchise deep dives, actor and director interviews, and everything in between. Movies have been a major part of our lives, and we cannot wait to share our thoughts with you.
Our premiere episode will drop Tuesday, June 27th, and JD and I will be reviewing Raiders of the Lost Ark in preparation of the release of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny on June 30th, the 5th installment of the franchise.
Join us on the Fanfare Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us and then listen in.
Here at Krypton Report, we believe in the power of podcasting, the power of speaking your voice and speaking something that comes from you. So here's a couple of podcasts you can check out with people sharing their voice.
I am Brian Peters, the creator and host of Gravely Amusing. For the past 30 years, I've studied the history of gods and monsters in pop culture and our world. As a student of theology and history, I've tried to understand evil and its impact on us. As a writer, I've tried to share this knowledge. As a comedian, I've tried to make people laugh as I do it. But as a man-child, I'm still that scared 7-year-old boy. Join me as I share the history of horror and sci-fi, discuss classic and modern pop culture, and share a creepy story or two. This podcast may scare you, it may horrify you, or it may leave you gravely amused. Listen to Gravely Amusing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever podcasts are found. Follow us on Twitter at gravely_amusing or on TikTok at gravely amusing.
We have a $1 Patreon. Yes, I know everyone asks for money, but our $1 Patreon each month gets you commentary tracks for releasing movies, DC movies. It gets you my Requel series where I pitch ideas about movie sequels, prequels, or whatever. It also gets special bonus episodes of whatever else some of the friends of the network chime in and drop. So check that out for $1 a month. That's all we ask. Keep it cheap, keep it simple, and help us keep going. Check out the link in the show notes or Patreon, Krypton Report.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
Superman 78, the second chapter, The Metal Curtain. Written by Robert Venditti. Pencils by Gavin Goodry. Inks by Gavin Goodry. It was a 6-issue run. And it basically falls into like the idea of Metallo in the Superman 78 universe. Now, James, are you under the impression that the Superman 78 books follow Superman 2 before we got to Superman 3?
I think so. That's what I would feel like it did. Just with the way that characters know and or don't know and everything. And just the way that Lex Luthor seems like a crime against humanity kind of person. The way he worked with General Zod and everything.
It feels right to me, that because thinking about certain plot threads that are in Superman 3, and certain things are kind of try to be explored in this, and we'll talk about it, but just
well, yeah, I was gonna say there's one panel throughout this story where it makes it seem like Lois knows, like she knew at the end of 2 and then was memory wiped, quote unquote. But after that point, we're like, does she know or doesn't she know? Because even in the movies, they kind of give that, does she know, doesn't she know?
Exactly. And this book, start with issue 1. It shows, it starts with the blowing up Krypton again, but it shows how a piece of kryptonite lands in Russia in 1951. We have Lois investigating, doing her reporting as some sort of deal is going down. Gets caught, tape recorder smashed. Superman saves her. And, he goes back and saves the ship too, because that's what he does. And, we have a very believable, we have Perry White and Jimmy are very present in this book. and it feels, correct. Feels like I can see and hear those characters. Though I feel like the lowest that we get in these books is better than the Margot that we got in the films. We find out that there was a Russian pretending to be American that got the suit, the armor, and it's going to be powered by Krypton. So the first issue, reintroducing us to this world. One thing is, I liked Superman 78, the first one. I did not like that Jor-El and Lara survived and were in the Bottle City. That's one thing I didn't like. I think it undercuts. It also makes it a little weird when you try to look at the times table of how fast that city must have been taken. Watching, if it's Superman the movie. So that's one thing.
Right, because Clark or Kal-El was sent away at the last moment of Krypton's destruction.
Exactly. So I'm not a huge fan of them being alive in the Bottled City. It also then discounts him communicating with, AI Jor-El or Lara because, I have them in, the bottle. But then I think back, like I said, thinking back on Superman 3. Well, this is all before Superman 3, which it's no big thing that people know that I'm not a huge fan of Superman 3. I feel like it's two movies that got pushed together trying to make work. So, all right, issue 2. We're introduced to who, James?
Hal Jordan.
They never say Hal. They just call him
Okay, they call him Highball.
But we know who it is.
Yeah. They call him Highball, which is his flight name, his flight nickname. So we know that that's Hal Jordan, and he is flying a plane, test flying a plane, and Metallo crashes the plane while Superman has taken Lois to the fortress to speak with his parents, to speak with Jor-El and Lara.
And I feel like one of the ongoing debates, is it Lara or Laura? You know what I'm saying? Like, da-da-dum. Just like the Lana. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I think either or, really,
Yeah.
Depending on your preference, your own personal dialect.
I like how the parents call him out, like how he's awkward as you were, Jor-El, when I first met your parents. But yeah, we have Clark here. So it just to me is like this whole thing, like he puts back his Clarks and he's gonna tell Lois he's Superman, Clark Kent, Superman. And so we're kind of repeating beats from Superman too. So like he didn't learn his lesson the first time. Like now after talking with his parents, he realizes that he can have a relationship instead of just listening to AI dad. He's like actually talking to his real parent.
Yeah. AI dad, compared to the real thing in the books is very stunted, kind of like more make sure that Kal-El is a good person and not a threat to mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is fine for kind of back in the day, even for a piece of alien recorded technology. It's like multiple recordings, lots of sims, it's not like a downloaded consciousness that can react to you, that doesn't just have pre-recorded answers to questions.
Yeah. So that's kind of, like I said, that's my rationale, because like I said, I feel like we're repeating beats here. He's trying, but also makes me think like, okay, if you are really doing this as a in between Superman 2 and 3, that it's not going to work. But he doesn't get to tell Lois because he rushes out to save Highball and gets attacked by Metallo, who, of course, hits him with kryptonite. Starts getting beat up because he's sick. He hasn't dealt with kryptonite since Superman the movie. Lois is in the fortress. And, we have Metallo speaking his mind about, the people and for Mother Russia, that this American propaganda, because this Superman, still very much rooted in truth, justice, and the American way. Okay, so we gotta put that back. We gotta take a step back. Cold War makes sense. Very good with depicting of the time of what it might actually look like. I do find it interesting that Metallo has no head covering. As he gets blasted with a full-on shock of kryptonite from issue 3. We have the Daily Planet and great Perry White yelling at Jimmy, and then says, "Where is everybody?" We have Highball discovering Clark, takes him to a military base. They're trying to help him, but enter who? James, who shows up?
General Sam Lane.
All right, so this is my nitpick here. Because, all right, hold on. Let me pull up some information I meant to pull up here. Sam Lane. All right. Yeah. First introduced in Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane number 13, 1959. Okay. So he did not. So Sam Lane was introduced to us in Superman the movie in a quick scene that's in the director's cut, played by Kirk Allen, where Lana's mom is Noelle Neal, and he's in his suit. And at this time in the comics, he is still Dr. Sam Lane.
Even in the 70s?
Yeah, because even in Lois and Clark, he is Dr. Sam Lane. Now, post-Crisis is when he's reinvented to be General Sam Lane. So that would be 85, 86. I don't know when he exactly reappears in post-Crisis. I'm looking here. In The Adventures of Superman 424, January of 1987. So, this is Superman 78. This, if Superman, we can kind of theorize it's very close. That's all I'm going to say. If Superman 2 takes place, in 79, 80, because, originally it was supposed to be back to back instead of when it was actually released. And then,
are you having trouble reconciling Superman 78 written in 2024 as a problem with where Sam Lane was in the 70s?
Hey, that's what I'm saying. Okay, it's very close. He didn't become General Sam Lane until 87. He was still Dr. Sam Lane in the 70s and early 80s.
I know you like to create timelines and make the pieces fit and everything. Sometimes, Tyler, I think you make it hard on yourself.
I'm just saying, okay? You're doing a really good job of being historically accurate with we're going to use the Cold War and all this. I'm just pointing out something, okay? Yeah, you're right. But we have this really great interaction between Sam Lane and Superman. Talks about, his daughter, and then, Highball's talking to him, and then he says, "Don't think this means you have my blessing. I understand what Lois sees in him, but don't think that you have my blessing." And Highball's like, "Sir, I'm not talking to him, Captain, or to you, Captain. I'm talking to him." We see him fly back, and There's Lois wearing his white Kryptonian shirt, laying in his bed, which is weird because I never really thought about Superman like actually sleeping at the fortress, like but makes sense, I guess.
I'd say if you want a quiet night's sleep, might be a good idea once in a while.
It's true. Then we're back to Moscow, and we see Metallo, walk like lifting a tank, working on his strength, and he's talking with his superior, and it's really about the American against the Americans, what the symbol of Superman is, how the Soviet power, and then we meet the Daily Planet 78 version of what do you call it? Lombard, who looks like Ron Burgundy. I almost called him Ron Burgundy.
He is very Ron Burgundy-like. And in 1978, he's probably very, very Ron Burgundy-like.
Or Brian Fantana. We do see that Clark has lingering effects of the kryptonite, that it is staying with him, and he's not, he hasn't done the fly up into the sun, like we expect him to do, to recharge and, burn off the kryptonite like every other version does. Nope, he hasn't done that yet. We learn that Daily Planet is behind on the story, and that Lois has no problem with going in the men's room. And then the book ends with a newspaper being taken, and we get a reveal of Lex, the greatest criminal mind the world has ever seen. For issue 4, Lex Luthor on the cover. And this is we're in Washington, D.C. when Metallo shows up. It says, "I am Metallo, hero of the Soviet Union. Your capitalist ways are over." They're very anti-capitalist, Soviet propaganda.
Hey, pause for a second.
So we have the Daily Planet newsroom, and I like this panel because we have Clark like looking around, no one's paying attention, and then he just jumps out the window. We have that great flying, shirt rip, Superman flying. And I like it because people are looking down and seeing him, like they could kind of like look like, hey, he came from the Daily Planet. Because he's pretty low, and they're all looking up at him. Hey.
Right? Somebody looking out the window just randomly sees a guy jump out of the window of the Daily Planet.
I'm like, hey, that guy's Superman.
I think Superman might work there.
So Superman flies to not Russia, flies to DC and starts fighting Metallo. He hits him, but everyone's watching Superman get whipped. We see the army fire everything, and Superman tries to throw a tank, and everyone's like, "Way to go, Superman! Yay!" And then Lois is like, "Something's not right," and then Metallo busts from the tank. And of course, we have Superman doing what he does best, trying to talk with Metallo. He's like, "We haven't done anything yet. Why are you doing this?" And then enter Lex Luthor on a frequency only Superman can hear. And my favorite is Superman saying, "Oh no." And Lex basically tells him, "I designed this armor. Watch this." And he tells him where the off switch is. So Superman flips around behind him. Emergency, says emergency shutdown commenced. And we see the shutdown will be complete in 30 seconds. And Metallo takes off. And Superman's still standing. And the armor's like, "Go after him." He's like, "No." And then as he's flying away, Lex Luthor's like, "Good work, Superman. Couldn't have done it without me. Maybe it's time you and I had a chat." And Superman's, "As much as I don't want to admit it, you're right." And then we have the Daily Planet where we see Jimmy another easy win for Superman. Will look good on tomorrow's front page, right, Miss Lane? And Lois was like, sure. So she knows something's up.
Yes, she does.
So issue 5. We're in the California desert where General Sam Lane awaits as Superman and Lois descend together. And I like this is probably one of my favorite panels. He's Superman. You like him, he likes you. That about cover it.
And they both look awkwardly at each other. Or look awkwardly.
Yep. And then here he comes now. Driving his car. Man, now my thing's not working.
Lex Luthor coming out into the middle of the desert in a limo.
I'm just kind of like, where's he got his money? Like, he's on, like, whatever.
Yeah, wasn't he, it can't be like local, it can't be banks or anything. They would have frozen his assets and stuff.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor keeps it in his mattress.
But, just trying to think where we, because we saw where he was in the last issue and stuff, but, he's crafty. Got 2 ladies. Tells him to wait in the car. He basically says he created the armor. He thought he was selling it to the Americans because he's a capitalist, but he got duped by. That's when we learn about the undercover, Russian.
Yeah, the undercover Soviet spy.
Yeah. And then we get, we're back to seeing Metallo out of his armor, punching a wall, yelling, "Niet, niet, niet." And what we're seeing here is that the exposure to kryptonite's actually changing his physical body because he's punching the wall and he's not feeling pain. There's no damage to him. He gets slapped in the face and doesn't move. And then we see like kind of like greenish yellow starting to like crack through his eyes and skin. And they're basically trying to figure out what to do. And or with Superman, who decides he's going to fly off, he has a plan, and he goes to Moscow. And he tries to introduce himself, and he's like, and they're all freaking out. He's like, "Don't be afraid." Little girl's crying. He goes to help her. The bat smashed against the back of his neck. And then we see the Russian. They have a plan. And Metallo basically snaps. He throws his superior. He goes and he gets his armor. And he arrives there in Moscow to fight Superman. As Superman's just trying to talk to him. Of course, that's not going to work. And he says, this does not end with you. It begins. That is my only promise. I just have to believe. He says, I believe in the revolution. I believe in the union. For the glory of the people. Superman just stands for the next issue.
Yeah. Well, we get like when Metallo disobeys orders and goes after Superman. He says, "I am for the people. Your stratagems and maneuvers have cost too many chances. I will not let them cost lives. You will not take this from me." So, like, even him as a person of the military is basically just full of this propaganda that Superman is evil and that he's a killer because he's American.
Yep.
Superman shows up and everybody runs and screams from him because that's what the government has told them that he is, that if he shows up, that if Superman were ever to invade Mother Russia, that he would, destroy their way of life and kill everyone.
Mother Russia. So the last issue opens up with, we are news people. We report. We don't hold our breath and wait to hear. And it's Perry. Somewhere in Russia, the most important story in the world is happening right now. and no one has a clue. But do me a favor, Superman. Pick Metallo's keys. And, you know, we see Metallo punch Superman. He goes into a pillar, a little girl. Of course, Superman saves her and is like, it's going to be all right. She's crying. She says, Superman. Boom, Metallo hits him. Welcome to the motherland. That's how I hear him saying it with a really thick accent. Your tattered cape will be our flag. Will be the flag. And then we see Metallo crushing, almost hurts different civilians and people. And we see Superman saving the different people. He uses his freeze breath to try to stop him. And we see the people watching the battle. We see a building start to like fall. Superman using his heat and stabilizes it. Metallo takes him down. And just yelling, die, die now. And he says, you listen too much to your own propaganda, Superman. Why did you believe you could live? Because it isn't me I believe in. I believe in you. That doesn't sit well with Metallo. He's very upset. He doesn't want Superman to believe in him. That's not right. What do you believe now, Superman? Your American ways, your individualist trappings, nothing against a single Soviet heart. And then the little girl stops Metallo. Says, you don't have to be mad. He doesn't want to hurt anyone. And then all the people are coming out like talking about how Superman stopped him, he saved them. And Metallo he is the weapon of the oppressor. He is the enemy. What if that's just what they told us? And then Superman says, Russia, America, your weapons and ours. The world wants us to fear one another, to hate. No one is perfect, Metallo, especially not me. But we all have it inside ourselves to be good to each other. And Soviets show up. And then I don't know how to pronounce his name. Captain Nikolev is, you know, who Metallo is.
Yeah.
Says he has invaded our sovereign borders. He comes to conquer our people. He is the tyrant of the American Empire. Lies. All lies. You will do as I order, or you will be replaced. There will not be another. I will not allow it. We don't choose.
You don't choose, we choose for you.
Yeah. The kryptonite radiation has poisoned your mind. The armor was not adequate to contain it, but we'll build again. Better, stronger. People have their champion. Kryptonite will never harm anyone again, I promise this. Metallo, not this way. Let me help you. My name is Maxim. You already have. And he, Superman, don't. He flies and basically self-destructs in space. In a glow of green radiation. And he says, no one will know of this. The name of Captain Maxim Nikolov will be spoken of only with dishonor and discharge. A traitor to the Soviet Union. Doesn't matter if you honor him. They will. And if you try and stop them, remember, I'll be watching. And as he flies away, the people are chanting Super. Cut back to the Daily Planet. We have Kent. Are you listening? And then we have, gosh, Mr. White, I guess this cold is still getting the better of me. Well, while you were out with the sniffles, news was happening. I'm standing here with a blank front page. Lane, nothing from your source? Not a word. And learned that Lane's source had been Lex Luthor. She says, Clark, why don't you go take something? It says, Moscow's newspapers aren't reporting what happened to Superman. How can we expect to find out? Tie with the Soviets, a great day for freedom of the press. And then what about the story of Superman's parent? Maybe that'll give you a statement or something. And then we have Jimmy's camera. And then Olsen, save your film for something I can use. Take a look. And then outside the window, hello, it's Super.
What's new in the world? And what's new in the world is people in Russia, little girl idolizing Superman.
He's got a homemade shirt with a cape pinned to it, and that is the metal curtain conclusion. What do you think about it overall, James?
I mean, overall, I feel like it was a pretty good, like you said, easy read. It was a good story. I mean, heck, honestly, it's as relevant today as we ever could think, people just believing everything the government tells them, like telling you who's bad and who's good and, without any actual empirical evidence.
It was
So,
very. I liked it. It's like you said, it's an easy read. It feels like it, in the same vein. If you're a fan of that Superman, it feels good and it works.
yeah, we've talked about it. Like, not every single Superman story ends with Superman throwing punches and knocking people out. Sometimes it is him actually proving something better, proving that people and things can be better than they were before. Um, kind of just trying to change the world. And I feel that this story certainly fits that bill.
I agreed. It would be a really nice afternoon read to do both 78s back to back. And they haven't announced anything, but I heard that he does have ideas for more.
Ooh, nice.
So that would be cool to see where that story would go. Continue. And you know what? It's just one of those things that I appreciate. Like, I like the continuation of these worlds in comics. Like, I wish there was, something with, like, even just a special with the George Reeve. Would be nice to do that story. It'd be even better, James.
What's that?
Is to do a Supergirl series comic book.
Ooh, connect her to the Superman 78 comic book?
Yeah, since we, never really got that officially in film and it's just alluded to, that would be a great one to do.
Yeah, I think fans of all of these properties really enjoy going back to see some stuff, see some newer takes, see some newer stories on these times with these characters that we have a lot of nostalgia for. I mean, jumping to the other side of the fence, X-Men 97 is freaking killing it. And back here, like, Batman 66 did well, Superman 77 or whatever did pretty good. Got Batman. Did I said Superman, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Wonder Woman 77. They had those crossovers then. We got Superman 78, Batman 89. And they've picked up, they move forward. Like, I think there's room for some of these stories to keep seeing just some nostalgia.
I mean, especially with, where we don't feel like the story's ended, or we didn't get a good finale. So I mean, we technically got, Smallville season 11, so we continued on there. But I think we're doing Batman 89 right now. We're in the second chapter of that with Echoes, which I don't understand how you launched that, and then it took months to get the second issue. And they've only been 2 issues released so far. And so I don't know how that is, but yes, a Supergirl continuation comic would be great. It would be great if we got like a one shot, of a continuation of this story would be awesome. And then eventually, I mean, you could do like, a a Flash 92, you know, and kind
Right.
of like what from that character, like, you know, give us a story about kind of what he was up to, building up to when he appeared in Crisis. So, you know, there's definitely an interest in there, and those are fun to do. All right. So our last part of our episode for this evening is we are going back to Superboy. We talked about in our last episode that we would be watching Superboy season 1. And we have reviewed Superboy. Now, before everyone freaks out here, listen to me. We had done the first episode of Superboy years ago when we did our pilot season, when we were doing, you know, just getting a sample of every version of these characters. And then we continued on with Superboy season 2 because we had the opportunity, and we were looking at the Gerard Christopher. Now we are going back and we are doing season 1 because we have no access to anything. Well, James doesn't. I have all the DVDs now, but James has the DVD of season 1.
Yes, I do. Thank you for that.
And being able to obtain these episodes is really what's hindered us from reviewing them. But we are looking at Superboy season 1, episode 5, Countdown to Destruction. Now, reason being is because this was actually originally supposed to be the pilot, but it wasn't shown till later. Which, to me, anytime they do that for a series, smells trouble.
Yeah.
When they show an episode that's not what the pilot was supposed to be first, smells trouble.
Was that why it was like that? Because I was like, what are they talking about? Like, this is episode 5.
And that's why I told you, I said, we're doing episode 5. just trust me on this one. Countdown to Nowhere is the official title. I had it mistaken. Saturday, November 5th, 1988. And the description is, the world first learns of a new hero, Superboy, when he rescues Lana Lang from kidnappers Roscoe Williams. So this was supposed to be, you know, the official pilot. Now, what's interesting is it was only 21 minutes long. And one of the things we're going to look at in this is the original Superboy season 1 was supposed to be longer episodes. And that was kind of something they changed later on. But, you know, we start off the episode with protesting. We meet TJ White. And Solomon goes, "Is that Jimmy?" I'm like, no, it's TJ White. It's not Jimmy. No, Solomon,
Nope.
It's not Jimmy. But it might as well be.
Yeah, might as well be.
And this is where we get where I said, is it Lana or is it Lana? Because you'll hear it both ways throughout this series.
Yes, sir.
And my perception sometimes with these is, what did I hear first that stuck with me? Because technically, Lana should be Lana. But Lana is acceptable, and that's just what I've always heard.
I was going to say, that's what I've always heard Lana, and I've always read it as Lana.
Kind of like the Kara, you know, debate.
Yeah.
But we have these football player guys who look much bigger than they should be. Even though they're in college, they still have their, you know, and they break in and to this where they're testing lasers. They have a laser gun that they're testing. And then we get the cutaway to the Superman flying over the bridge in the water of Florida with the very, very 80s theme. Very 80s. I mean, this is... You know, like
right.
Miami Vice sounding like... But, you know, in this, Clark and TJ are investigating things, and Clark gets a call from his mom. And I thought this was interesting because Lana is from Smallville, okay? And we have, are you thinking of becoming Superboy? You know, and from Ma, and I thought, like, has he been Superboy before? is this something he's done? You know, and
or something he's only talked to his parents about.
yeah, like so it kind of there. I'm like, ooh, now I'm a little bit I'm a little intrigued. Like I want to know more about like what is some of his past because, and I will not say this on every episode, okay? But I always joke about how when was the cutoff day when he woke up one day and said, "From this day forth, I will be Superman, not Superboy." Like was it when he turned 18? You know, like when his voice started cracking, "I'm Superman now, Mom." Superman. Like, no, Clark, go back upstairs. But we have there's really not a lot of score in this episode. It's a couple times I try to reuse the theme, like when he ducks behind a bush, does the short rip, and then all of a sudden comes flying out from the student like courtyard, and they're like, "Who's that?" And one thing I have to appreciate is in this episode, and we'll talk about it each episode, is Newton's way of making Clark kind of awkward, nerdy, but not too nerdy. Not like the parody nerdy I think we'll find later on. But that we talked about in season 2, like the way Gerard played him in season 2 was very like almost too nerdy, where it's just like the opposite way where I don't know.
Right,
It almost makes Clark like
almost
complete
like Christopher Reeve, where you can't believe this 6'4" guy is like is being this complete doofus, and
yeah. But I mean,
like,
even
like if he stands up straight, he looks like a linebacker.
like I always think back like the parody on shows of like what the nerds were like, almost like a Steve Urkel with the pocket protector and white socks with like loafers and just
Yeah, suspenders, high-waisted pants, the high socks and the pocket protectors.
Yeah. I like the way they depicted all the nerds on Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
That's, and I feel like Newton's not playing to that on this episode. And like I said, we'll break it down as we go because this was the first, it was to be the pilot. And you can tell because like when we have the nuke, so they're about to launch the space rocket and Superboy's, making sure that it's not interrupted. And it's it's very rear projected. I mean, when he shows up and it just is one of the hardest looking scenes of like the rocket in the background where Superboy is, and then the army. And he says, like, "Who are you?" And he says, "I am Superboy. I am called Superboy." And it's just it's a rough shot.
All of it really is, honestly. Especially if this was probably originally the pilot. Just everything like Lana falling from the chopper and Superboy catching her over the beach and everything. Like she has no weight. You can tell she's being suspended. It's and then all of the background shots, like him flying and stuff. He looks like he's hovering like Iron Man. Like he's being propelled from underneath his feet or something. Like just very different. It's yeah, it looks very rough. Them trying to figure out how to do it.
I mean, there's even scenes where you can tell like there's a harness that they took off, like the way he's posed.
Yeah.
And like you said, they have Lana in the helicopter and he's flying up there and they're trying to shoot him with the laser and he takes the guys out. And he's holding her and she's like, "Oh, who are you?" So it means he never was Superboy in Smallville.
Right. Him hovering there and blocking the laser blast with his hands. Like they didn't line up.
I'm looking forward to the episodes because, I watched this whole season back in like 2018, 2019. I think when it was on DC Universe.
Mm-hmm.
because my plan was to watch the whole thing, and there's episodes coming up that deal with the Kents, and I look forward to revisiting those episodes and everything, and talking about season 1. But yeah, it's a quick episode. We learned they're at Schuster University in Florida for college, and it's a quick.
It was a very quick watch. And all the stuff I'm saying, the things that are rough and everything, like, honestly, I just kind of rolled with it. It didn't detract it hardcore for me. I just kind of rolled with it. I noticed it and I was like, huh. And I had some questions, but you saying that it was originally the pilot, I was like, oh, well, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, we're gonna watch this one first, because they're all like, "Who are you?" I'm called Superboy. All right, good name, man, who's obviously not a child.
Good, yeah. Good name, Superboy, who looks like 25.
You should call me Superboy. Tyler, you're in your 30s. Yeah, it's okay.
Don't you have children? Like, yeah, it's just so call me Superboy.
Superboy, James. But no, it'll be a fun, adventure to kind of go through. And I want to throw out there, as as we go episode by episode, just kind of reviewing and indulging the show. Our friend Anthony over at the Digging for Kryptonite has launched his Superboy chapter. I was recently on the last episode where we talked about some of the first appearance of Lana in comics, in Crypto and Perry White and such. And he will be doing a remix soon on the series. So that'll be a fun discussion if you want to hear just kind of an overall generic, not generic, but an overall discussion of the series while we dive through our individual episodes.
Cool.
And when Lana was first introduced in the comics, it was interesting. And, the Superboy comics are such a weird conundrum, because they do so much in those comics of setting up the world of Superman. Over on Electric Mullet, a podcast I'm part of, and James is too, we've been, we started with the John Byrne Man of Steel, and we're reading Superman straight through. And there's so much of his story that you're just kind of like, huh, interesting, that we're not really talking about of the past and really building the foundation. But that story with the Kents, it really is where, with them still being alive and Man of Steel, and then with Superboy, is where we really get the story of Smallville, the Kents, and things that are brought into the Superman mythos that come from the Superboy comics. So there is something about them, because I don't know how you feel, James, but I've always kind of had an issue with Clark being Superboy, like in the full costume and everything. It's always kind of not been my thing, but
right. I mean, modern day, like, Superboy in the present day is definitely one thing, something very contentious with, like, the mythos and everything. The Silver Age idea of him going to the future with the Legion and doing some things, learning some skills and all that type of stuff is one thing. It's not, I don't know that it really connects to a timeline that we know or that we would put together for our own version of Superman, but I don't think it's to be discounted entirely.
Because and I'm not stealing. I don't think I'm stealing any comments, because Anthony made this comment too in his discussion. Was even like Superman the movie basically ignores the whole Superboy canon, even though that was comics at the time. For the idea of Clark eventually becoming Superman on his journey, which I think works in a film, and but I'm enjoying, like, I am going to read some more of the Superboy comics just because I find it interesting, just where we start to build this mythos. Like Lana, when we first introduced to her, it's at a time where the Kents aren't on the farm. They own the general store. They live in town Smallville. And she's kind of almost just a Lois Lane ripoff.
Mm.
You know, and I really think that she really develops more into herself as it goes, and I'm curious to see and take this Superboy journey, because it is overall Superboy is just not something that was a huge part of my fandom, because, like, you know, we all grew up in the post-crisis era, and, you know, Superboy was Connor.
Yeah.
And I really liked when John Kent was Superboy young. I'm not ashamed to admit that I don't like that they aged him up. I liked the character, but I liked him when he was a boy. I love going back and reading the Super Sons book. I love reading anything with young John.
Yeah, which is why I'm really glad that recently in the Wonder Woman books there is a backup story of John and Damian.
Oh, like this? Yes, the world's finest secret hidden story of how John and Damian were helping with Trinity.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. I'm waiting for Trinity to come like full into comics. She's kind of been this kind of kept secret, her history, her origin, and who she really is. And that whole story, like what's going on, it's been really interesting. I'm all caught up. I read yesterday, because I re-got my app. I told Jania, we went after Free Comic Book Day. We went back to my in-laws and chilled. The kids played and did some stuff outside, and I just kind of relaxed. And I read $70 worth of comics yesterday.
Hell yeah, dude. That is one of the beautiful things, like I said, about the app. Like it's been a while since we've really been like, yeah, the app, but that's where we read from. But yeah, like you said, sit down and read like 70 comics in a day, and then you pay for $100 for a year.
Yeah, I was like, Jania, I read The Metal Curtain as we were driving, because Jania was driving and I was in the back chilling with the kids. I was like, I read The Metal Curtain. I caught up on the Titans, and I caught up on Wonder Woman, and I caught up on the Batman where they did the Joker arc for like Joker Year 1.
Yeah.
I finished the Beast World or whatever it was. That was going on, that event. And then I caught up on Shazam, because I've really enjoyed Mark Waid's Shazam, or, you know, where he's the captain. Caught up on that. So like I was just catching up on all kinds of comics yesterday, and I was just out of curiosity, I was tallying it up. Like, Jania, I just read $70 comics.
Right. Hell yeah.
I was like, give me like 2 more days, this app will overpay for itself.
Yeah.
But especially going back and digging into these older things, and
yeah.
My one thing right now is I wish that either John or Connor would be Superboy. Like, they kind of are still calling Connor Superboy, but I feel like Connor, I've said this for a while, I feel like Connor, he has earned to kind of up to being like Nightwing. Like, I feel like he needed his own moniker, and John should have been Superboy. And we should have grown Connor into his own moniker. Because I really think there would have been some great stories with young John and Connor.
Yeah.
As like this uncle-brother relationship, kind of like Nightwing to Damian type thing. And I think we missed out on that. So, what is, dear listeners, what do you prefer? Do you prefer, Connor as being Superboy, or do you think he deserves his own moniker and that John should be Superboy? Because I am not a fan of John being called Superman as well. It's confusing. Just me, so I do hope that whenever they release Trinity, like full on as a character, like whenever she really comes out or whatever in the books, that I would love to see a new Trinity book that is Damian, Trinity, and John, even if it's kind of set in the future,
right?
Because of like some of the backups had Damian in his Batman outfit. I'm just curious when she's taking place and what she's doing, but I would like to see the three of them working together.
Like the idea, like that would be cool because it's more of a modern day, but also like the idea of seeing more of the the Titans become the Justice League. Back when they did like Tim as Savior, and Connor was Superman, and Wally was the Flash.
Yeah.
And one of them, I think Cassie was Wonder Woman.
So
yeah,
exactly. And that's kind of where I'm interested, because like you have that biological bond of each of them being the child of the hero.
Mm-hmm.
So let us know your thoughts. Email us, send us a message. James, take care. Enjoy this day. I hope your weather's better than here. I'm off to an event for work that you guys will be hearing about. I'm actually was asked to dress up as Batman for a kids thing at work
Ooh,
today.
nice.
So I'll be doing that. And remember,